I mean, you're considerably darker than when you left.
I know, and I would put that 100 on my face 3 or 4 times a day.
Oh, wow. I'm kind of the same way. I'm one shade darker than a dead person.
This case should never have come to trial.
I don't think it's fair to call my clients frauds. Because one time I turned into a dog and they helped me. Thank you.
Your Honor, we would like to withdraw our plea of not guilty and enter a plea of guilty.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery, of a sham, of a mockery, of a travesty, of 2 mockeries, of a sham.
If we are to have faith in justice, we need only to believe in ourselves.
And the truth shall set you free!
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
I think the truth will come forth.
You can't handle the truth!
Hello, everybody. It's time for some more Law Light, brought to you by Foreman, Watson, Holtree, FWH Legal. Hey, we are here today, as most of the days, at 530 Frederica Street at the High Rise White Tower. PJ is on the other side. How are you, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Good to be back in the saddle. Yesterday was a long day. First day back from vacay. You know,
I can see that you got sun while you were in Florida.
I did, and that's despite 100 sunscreen. Believe it or not.
Really?
I caked myself. I mean, the sun is intense.
Yeah.
Right, and so. My wife deals with some skin cancers, and so we're ultra, protective about that stuff. And so a lot of the days, like I had sleeves on, those ultraviolet protecting shirts, like fishing shirts, and still you can see I got sun on my arms.
I mean, you're considerably darker than when you left.
I know, and I would put that 100 on my face 3 or 4 times a day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So
anyway.
I'm kind of the same way. I'm one shade darker than a dead person, and so when I get in the sunlight, it's bad.
Cake.
Yeah, I'm like a redhead. It's just like my skin bursts into flames.
Yeah. Well, we're glad to be back, and it was cool recording. Listened back to the podcast that we recorded down there because I was like, how in the world could he not hear the Blue Angels? But you can't hear them.
I couldn't.
You can't.
But
you can hear some birds.
I was gonna say that's the hilarious thing. I can't hear jets. But I could hear those birds clear as day.
And those jets were like it's like when they do the air show here in Owensboro, and we hear them from our office. They're down on the river practicing.
Mm-hmm.
That's how loud it was where I was standing, but you couldn't hear it.
Yeah, I don't.
It's just crazy. Because I was like, how could he not hear that? I'm going to go back and listen. And I listened to the whole thing. I was like, you cannot hear those jets.
They must be flying at a frequency that the microphone couldn't pick up.
But anyway, we are we're back, and a couple of things. First of all, as you know, I had tried to get our new partner, Bart Darrell, as a guest today on the podcast.
Yeah.
And you know what? He bailed out on us. Like
Not
he had
having
something more important to do, like work or something. And so he's left you and I with, 25 minutes that we have to find
High and
something to
dry.
talk about. He hasn't even been kind enough to send me a text message. So the way I see it is he's going to have to cover the podcast for like 2 or 3 weeks straight just as a makeup, don't you think?
I think so.
I mean, that's what we're going to
He'll
do.
give us a break.
Yeah, we need a break. And Bart, since he was just totally, what I'm going to say, NR, non-responsive today, and kind of my feelings are hurt. Here we've been talking about how big of a deal it was that Bart was coming on board and all the things that he does and has done and is going to do for the firm.
Yeah.
And here he just totally.
Now he's the invisible man.
I'm not going to even respond to Travis. That's how important this guy thinks he is. I'm not even going to respond to Travis when he talks.
See, you talked him up so much that his ego's gotten the better of him. So day one, he's like, I'll just do whatever I want to do.
This guy, I can see it's an issue. But seriously, no, Bart will join us again some other time, several times, I'm sure. He wants to be a part of our podcast and even take some of the control on take my place on some days, and I think that's great. And he'll be bringing in some guests as we look at 2021, like we talked about last time. But a couple things that we can talk about today that I'm excited about is while I was in Florida, I received a phone call and an email from Thomson Reuters notifying me that I had been again designated and selected to be super lawyer.
Yeah.
Now that is not a superhero. Okay, that doesn't mean you have any powers like able to climb tall buildings, leap tall buildings, stop a locomotive. What was it?
Fast as a locomotive. or is it Fast as a Bullet? I'll be honest, I'm not a Superman fan.
Still, but you get what I'm getting. You're picking up when I'm laying down.
Yeah.
All right, so anyway, they called and they said that I had been designated. What that means is that they have done, there's sort of a criteria that they go through. They look at cases that you have been involved in and gotten results from, and so they look at case results, okay? And then they look at a trial history to make sure that you've tried enough cases to be, and then they go to peers. They talk to peers that do the same kind of work as you, and then peers that have been against you in cases.
Right.
And they take this formula and they look at it, and they also look at the position that you have with your firm. You know, what are your responsibilities other than practicing law?
Right.
And so when they looked at that formula, or they put that in place, I got it again. Which basically, when you get it, there's 100 people in the state of Kentucky who are designated for super lawyer in the area of personal injury. Okay, so of all the personal injury attorneys, what they're saying is through their criteria, I'm in the top 100. Okay, so my thinking is I'm probably number 100. All right, I'm not like up there in the 10s or 20s. It's like
you never know.
But hey, you're in. I'm in the club, right?
Okay. Well, considering how many personal injury attorneys are just in the state of Kentucky alone, being in the top 100 is pretty incredible.
I take it as a compliment, and it's something that we're going to talk about. What's interesting is that in Owensboro, Kentucky, and in our surrounding counties, in the counties that touch Owensboro, I'm the only one now. Charlie Moore used to be designated super lawyer in the area of personal injury, but I'm the only one that's designated now, currently, for 2 years straight, because I got it in 19. But interestingly, and we talked about Bart, but Bart is recognized and is a member of the American College of Trial Attorneys. So when you combine those two, there is no other firm in a radius of Owensboro and in a radius of 50, maybe 100 miles that have that combination, super lawyer designation and member of the American College of Trial Attorneys. So I think that what that speaks to is the quality of representation that people are going to get when they come here to Foreman Watson Holtry. And one of Bart's big things that he'll harp on is that we want to continue to focus on the fact that we're problem solvers, and there's a lot of different ways to solve a problem. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, your kids come to you as we've talked about this. You, as a dad, you've shared with me some of the struggles with your boys, and when they come to you, they say, "Okay, this is my problem." Whether it's I can't do my homework, or so and so at school's making fun of me, or girls don't relate to me, or whatever. Right?
Right.
You have to identify what the issue is, and you have to think about the best way to go about that problem. And sometimes it's with a little bit of aggression. Sometimes it's with a peaceful approach and just being a listener. Sometimes it's putting a plan into action, And so, when people come to us with legal issues, you can't just use the same formula every time.
Right.
Right? In your work, what you do you do the same video for everybody?
Oh, no.
Right. So how do you go about assessing that?
Well, I mean, you have to take into account, for one, what the situation was. And then I typically, once I find out like what exactly their situation was, I'll kind of do a little bit of research on it and find statistics and stuff like that. And as you know, not all statistics are the same because not every situation is the same.
Right.
And then it's we don't just say what happened in a video. We have to tell a story. So we have to look at what happened from many different perspectives, from many different angles, and figure out, the best way to come at it. So it makes it, completely different almost every time out of the gate. There's some similarities from one case to the next, but typically it's, you have to find the strongest elements and focus on those.
You find those, and then one of the things that I think you've gotten better at in the production is that at first you were afraid to talk about our weaknesses. Okay? But what we do is we say, like, if a person had a prior injury to the same area that they injured in the wreck, what do we say? We say, well, look, we're not going to make any bones about this. This guy had a bad shoulder.
Right.
But then after this, he had 2 more surgeries. And, so you don't run from the weakness. You create the weakness as a part of your narrative.
Yeah. And most people, when they have a weakness and then a collision, it compounds
Right.
the situation. So it either was getting better and now it's bad again, or it was bad already, but now it's 10 times worse.
And under Kentucky law, there is a case, all right, that says very clearly that if you cause a wreck or you're at fault, you are responsible for the injuries that you caused or the aggravation and acceleration of injuries that pre-existed that you made worse. All right. And I use this scenario. You've heard me, I think, maybe use this thing. If somebody scratches their hand, all right, our bodies are amazing, right? What happens within a couple days is it's scabbed up, and then after that scab dries up, then it's this kind of some new skin there. It's pink as opposed to the normal color of your skin. And within a month or so, it's pretty much back to normal.
Yeah.
But let's say that 2 weeks into that healing process, just about the time that the scab has dried up and is about to fall off, let's say you're walking around, a piece of a desk and you bump your hand. And you look down, and at some of the spots on there, it's bleeding again.
Yeah.
Okay. So what it did now, it did not cause the initial scratch on your hand, right? The
Right.
desk didn't, but hitting your hand on the desk took a pre-existing condition and aggravated it or accelerated it and made it worse.
Right.
And so to that extent, the new event, had, if you look at it from a car wreck, some way, a compensability factor of the difference. What did it make worse or what did it aggravate? So, and as we mentioned, that's an important thing to highlight in these videos, and we've gotten kind of microscopic here, but drawing back was the whole point we were trying to make is that we are problem solvers. And so you can't handle every problem the same way. You have to look at this case. Here's the warts on the case. Here are the good things about the case. How are we going to solve this problem? We have some cases, as you know, and I think sometimes you take a deep sigh when you see that some of them aren't going to be video presentations, right?
Right.
Because we make the assessment this case doesn't line up good for a video presentation. This one needs to be presented in a different way.
Yeah.
There's some cases that we avoid. We totally don't even make a video or a demand. We immediately put it into litigation. We immediately stick the case into litigation and start driving it toward a trial because we feel like they need to understand how serious this is and how quickly we will move to get the case ready for trial. So, and there's a lot of times taking it out of personal injury, but there's a lot of people that come to see us and talk to us about things, and we say, well, let's go talk to the other side. Let's see if there's a way to arrive at some type of an understanding that we can all agree to. So it's an interesting thing that we do.
Yeah. And it stays interesting because it changes so much
every day, right?
Yep.
And so when you get what kind of had us leap off here was me talking about getting recognized or designated as a super lawyer.
Now, do you get like a cool parking space somewhere or like a year's worth of shrimp cocktail or something?
I don't get anything. I get to put a little sticker or the little symbol on my signature.
Yeah.
No, but what's funny was last year when I got it, I got an anonymous gift in the mail, and it was a cape. And it said super lawyer on it. Well, I swore up and down that the staff, some of our assistants had done that. I thought they went in and bought me this cape. And I find out it wasn't. It was a friend of mine in Florida that saw about it and sent it to me.
Oh, that's
like
funny.
Anonymously. And so about 6 months after he sent it, he cracked and said, "Hey, super lawyer, you wear your cape around the office and strut around." And I was like, "Oh man, it was you." So, but anyway, I'm humbled by it, and I use those kinds of accolades, recognition, designations. I use it as a reminder, as an accountability thing, that if I've been designated as that, then there is an expectation of excellence every day.
Right.
And that means that we have to do a good job, stay focused, stay on task, be creative. And so it's great to be, but it also, I use it to hopefully, make myself better and the people around me better, and including you, and so, all right. Now you have come through again. I want to talk about something you've done.
Uh-oh.
right? You have set up, as I understand, a great guest for next week.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And who is it?
My friend Lee Goldberg.
Your friend. You're telling me you are friends with Lee Goldberg.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, for those who don't know who Lee Goldberg is, can you give me a little bit of insight into, like, just now we're going to have him on and we're going to go in depth into his career.
Right.
But just to give the listeners a little bait for listening next week, tell us about Lee Goldberg.
Well, he's an author. He's a screenwriter. He's executive produced a ton of shows. He's worked on some films, but like the shows most notably that he's produced and written for were like Monk, Psych, The Glades, Diagnosis Murder. I mean, it's funny. He and I have never really talked about this, but I'm probably going to ask him about writing for Baywatch, because he was a writer on Baywatch, and he never talks about that.
Why isn't it like on his basic bio thing?
Here it's got
hidden?
it's got Spencer for Hire, Martial Law, She-Wolf of London, Sequest, which who doesn't like Sequest? But here's what I find interesting about She-Wolf of London. I didn't realize he was a writer for that show. And he was constantly telling me, like, man, you got to do something other than horror films. If you ever want to break it into this business, you got to do. He's just not a big fan of horror. But then when I found out that he had written for a horror show,
you gave him.
Yeah, so I need to find out more about that, because I don't know if like he did it if it was a paycheck, or if he did it because he was. I mean, I'm not saying like he phoned it in. I've never seen any of the episodes, but. I just thought that was funny how he kind of touted himself as like an anti-horror guy, but he had written for a horror-based show. But he'll probably say, well, it's more thriller than it is horror.
Well, you came through on Benjamin Bush. All right, you came through. You got us Benjamin Bush, which was a fantastic interview, and it actually had a lot to do with. He had a lot of insight about the importance of attorneys in the process of entertainment law, or in entertainment, that they're needing to be entertainment lawyers. And you know what's funny was about 4 or 5 days after I had we had the interview and the podcast with Benjamin Bush, I was talking to a friend of mine who said that his daughter was going to go to law school and had a significant interest in entertainment law. And I was like, well, you need to tell her. I just had the opportunity to talk to Benjamin Bush, and Benjamin Bush said that we need entertainment lawyers.
Right.
So, there's no telling where our interview with Lee Goldberg will go. With some of his writing, with Diagnosis Murder and things like that, I can't help but think that he is somewhat knowledgeable about some of the judicial system as far as from the criminal perspective and police investigation type thing.
Yeah, well, he's now especially he's mainly an author. He did a slew of books with like Janet Ivanovich here recently, and he's got these Ian Ludlow thrillers that he writes. So a lot of his do deal with like courts and criminal systems and stuff like that. So.
Well, to write that kind of stuff, you have to research, right? I mean, that's one of the things I want to ask him is, you have to research, and what kind of research do you do? Do you go and view, do you go see the stuff in real life so that it makes you a better writer, a more realistic writer? And then do not try a case unless you have personally gone and stood where it happened, which I've told you, when kind of giving you some insights into that. Don't try a case unless you've gone to your client's house, taking a look around, spent some time with your client, spent a day with your client, seeing what it's like to have your client just to make it through a day, a day in the life type thing where you get the feel for what your client's going through. And it's because when you put yourself in that situation, there's a feeling you get. You get the feel for it. And so, on a much bigger scale, if you're going to write about a place, or if a story is going to take place in a certain location, going and staying there and being a part of that culture for a while is, I'm sure, vitally important.
Yeah.
And this is what I like about, when we first started talking about getting guests on here that were just totally outside of law, especially within the entertainment industry and writing and film. You said you had the idea or ability to get some of these guys. At first, you're thinking, well, how does that play into a Law Light podcast? And
right.
But what we learned with Benjamin, and I think what we'll see here, is there are so many parallels between filmmaking, storytelling, from an art standpoint, and the art of practicing law the right way. Yeah. And I love those parallels. The more that we get enlightened by these guys, it really is interesting.
And that was the great thing too, I think, about the interview with Ben. Like, even when we started to kind of drift away from what the overall idea of the podcast is, it would always come right back to the purpose of this, which is ultimately law done lightly.
Right.
So
we don't want to it doesn't want to be overbearing. We've said we don't want to wear people down with legal, blah blah blah. But I am a lawyer. I'm dedicated to this profession. I'm dedicated to my clients. It's what you have basically made a career, for your family, to feed your family. You are coming to a law office, and you have gotten a part of it that very few. I bet you there are very few people that get to do what you do for a living.
I don't know anybody else that does what I do.
Thing.
Yeah,
and but I have really enjoyed, and like I said, with Ben, and I'm sure with Lee, and that's what 2021. That's what we want to do in 2000. Is we want to bring people in from no matter what they do, and see how law is important in that, and then the parallels of what they're doing with what we're doing,
right?
And I think it's an educational process.
Well, it definitely is, because even I learned a lot talking to Ben,
right?
And I'm sure I'll do the same thing with Lee, because I've hung out with Lee and spent a lot of time with him over the past, I'd say 11 years now. He actually owns a house here in Owensboro.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he lives in Calabasas,
okay,
but he also has a house here. I think he rents it out, so he does some real estate stuff. But yeah, he's extremely intelligent and really funny.
All right.
So
well, great.
I'm looking forward to him.
Kudos to you for getting him on, and that'll be next week. Next, not this Friday, but next Friday we'll have the podcast up with Lee Goldberg. And so we look forward to that. And then after that, we're going to have some real exciting things. But you've done a great job bringing those people in. I just love the way the podcast is going in that direction.
Here.
And then on the days that people like Bart, don't show up, we always have something to talk about, you and me.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean,
absolutely.
No shortage of words between the two of us. So, well, listen, we've got busy days ahead, and in fact, we've got to do how many videos today?
We have 2, right?
2 videos today.
Literally right after
this.
Got
to do a radio recording.
Yep.
So we're going to cut this one a tad short, maybe, but this has been Law Light. It's been brought to you by Foreman Watson Holtry, FWHlegal.com. We are located at 530 Frederick Street and have offices in Evansville, Calhoun, Hartford, Bowling Green, and we are excited to be growing and helping people solve their legal problems. Until next time, Travis and PJ, and we're out.
This case should never have come to trial.
I don't think it's fair to call my clients frauds. Because one time I turned into a dog and they helped me. Thank you.
Your Honor, we would like to withdraw our plea of not guilty and enter a plea of guilty.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery of a sham, of a mockery of a travesty of 2 mockeries of a sham.
If we are to have faith in justice, we need only to believe in ourselves.
And the truth shall set you free!
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
I think the truth will come forth.
You can't handle the truth!